You're listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers.
Presented by CMH Heli Skiing and Peak Performance.
The Low Pressure Podcast is sponsored by CMH Heli Skiing, where you can choose from 11 unique locations and experiences, including 4, 5, 6, and 7-day signature trips, the brand new single day trips. You can do small groups with just you, 4 friends, and a guide, or the private and exclusive, where you get the whole place just to yourself. So find your next adventure at cmhheli.com. The Low Pressure Podcast is also sponsored by Peak Performance. There are many ways to make it down a mountain, but the best line is your line. And the adventure is there, so make it yours. Visit peakperformance.com and get the gear to unlock your freeride spirit.
That's true.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Here at the Wandering Fern Cafe in Golden, BC. It's a beautiful sunny day up on the mountain today. We got comp tomorrow, and it's on the T1 face, one that you won, which is exciting. So I want to talk to you about you a lot on this, more about this episode, because we've covered a lot of the FWT stuff. Go check out the Freeride Guide if you want more FWT stuff. But I want to talk about you because you're a fascinating character. But we got to get to why we're here. We're at the FWT in Golden. You won this event 2 years ago when it was on the T1 face, which is where we're competing tomorrow. So after face check today, how are you feeling about your experience here this year?
I'm feeling rather good. I think conditions are going to be tricky, but with my history on the Freeride World Tour, I think I've always been good on tricky conditions.
I agree, yeah.
However, 2 years ago when we did switch to this face, and we all thought it was going to be terrible to ski.
That's great.
After watching the Forerunners, it brought life back into us. We were like, oh, this actually looks skiable. And then watching the Forerunners today kind of gave a different look than 2 years ago. It was like less good than expected. And so yeah, we'll see what unfolds tomorrow. But I think I have a pretty creative line, and I'm going to try to hold those flat landings and just kind of get to the finish line on my feet.
Because you're a creative skier too. So that's one of the things I've noticed of you being on tour is there's people that approach the hill very differently. Everyone's kind of got their own style and their own kind of way of skiing. And there's some that are really noticeable, like a John Powell or an A-Paul, who kind of go cross court and they find more of a line. And then there's those guys that just point it and send it, like an Aymar or like a Reina, you know what I mean? And then there's guys like kind of yourself who have really kind of been leading a lot of the freestyle within the Freeride World Tour in the last couple of years. And I think a lot of it is because the conditions in the last 2 years consistently have been pretty poor, which kind of led to that being something that needs to be done. Like, you want to put down a good run, well, you got to do something a little bit bigger, because better or different or more unique or creative, I think is probably the better word.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I did say this last time I was here, is that for me, no matter which cliff you jump, if you can jump it straight, you can do a trick off it. Yeah. That's just basic physics. Like, if you can straight air it, then it's possible to do a trick. There is no reason for it not to. Whereas you cannot just keep jumping bigger and bigger and bigger, because at some point you're just gonna
land in the parking lot,
explode. So for me, like, I've always had this feeling of like, well, first of all, being kind of scared of like the really big cliffs where you'd probably be scared to do a trick off. But then also like jumping something and thinking, damn, I should have done a trick there. Like, it just like not feeling right to just jump straight. Mm-hmm. And last year actually in Andorra, doing a back slap on a shitty little straight air. Whereas if I had done a trick there, for sure I would have just stumped it.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You were talking about that. So the question I have for you is, like, I don't know if it was you that told me this, but is it sometimes easier to do a trick off of an air?
I think it's never easier to do. It's sometimes your body's gonna create more drag in the air while you're doing a trick, especially if you're doing a backflip or something like that. You're gonna create more air resistance,
Right.
because you're gonna be in this position where you're not so as aerodynamic as if you're just jumping down straight.
Is it also like a case of like, when you do a straight air and it's a big air, you're like, I'm looking at that thing the whole way that I'm going down, and I just have to hold my position in the air? Because
I think that's probably also one of the things. You're like thinking way too much about the landing and everything, whereas when you're doing a trick, you're basically just thinking about the landing once it's there.
Yeah, or you're just focused on making sure you get through the trick, whereas you're in the air, like, I don't have to do anything else, I just need to look.
Exactly. Yeah, that for me for sure is a big thing, that I will like do a straight air and just like be so focused on the landing and like just look at the ground coming at me, whereas when I'm doing a trick, it just kind of like last minute realize, okay,
it's there. Yeah, that's it. That's interesting, because when you're in the air doing that kind of stuff, time slows down. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like the amount that you can process in your mind in that fraction of a second is astonishing. Where like, you'll explain somebody like how you'll do like a 720 cork 7 off of a cliff that you cruised into. You're like, well, I was thinking about this when I got there. And then when I was in the air, I realized my arm was in a funky position, and I realized that I may not have been landing where I wanted to. So I rotated that, and you like are able to explain all of these things that you did in that fraction of a second. Whereas like just sitting on a couch or whatever, it's like time slows down, and it seems like you can fit so much more into that moment.
I love that feeling. I have like, sometimes I'm approaching a jump and I'm not sure whether I want to do a 360 or a backflip, or like, for example, 2 years ago in Verbier, when I approached the last jump, I'm like, damn, I got like in those 2 seconds before the jump, I had the time to think, oh my God, I'm coming pretty fast. I didn't manage to slow down enough. But if I don't do the backflip, I'm going to regret it the rest of my life. So just do it. And I was able to think of all this in the literal like 1 or 2 seconds before the jump, which like, it blows my mind every single time. Like every single time I approach a jump and I'm like, should I do a 3 or a backy? Oh, I don't know. Okay, backy. And you can think and like change your mind like 5 times. Right. In these like 2 seconds just before the jump.
In those like fractions of a second, as you get closer and closer and closer, and you're able to absorb all of the information that's coming in those seconds, like, oh, the snow condition just changed a little bit, or got icy, or it looks like that lip is a little steeper than I expected, or oh my God, is that a bird that just flew past my head? Do you know what I mean? Like you gotta like you figuring and changing all those things. So like for you to decide, am I going to 3 or going to backy? Is it sometimes like you get right to the lip and then maybe you haven't decided and you just do it?
Yeah, sometimes because at the end of the day, it's literally just putting your head back.
Do you ever get caught in the middle, or you're like, I'm gonna start this, but my body's doing the other thing?
Nah, that hasn't happened so far. But I think that's one thing, but then the other thing is as well your ability to just like feel a takeoff and just out of pure like feeling, being able to know how long you're going to be in the air. Right. Although you never did this jump before. And these are all like initially like maths going down in your head, thinking, okay, I need to stretch out, I need to tuck, I'm spinning fast, I'm spinning slow. Right. And like just to be able to feel that is like something where I said that in my movie, Petit Suisse. I don't know if you watched it. But
I think I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've watched like clips of it. Like I've gone through and we'll check it out. We'll talk about it now, man.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about the film now. So let's get to that in a minute because I want to kind of lead into it. So, question I have is kind of how people get to where they're at, right? So you have an unbelievable air awareness where you're like you just said, well, I need to open up, I need to tuck a little bit, I need to like widen my stance so I can land. I want to be able to like, if I land, I want to be able to let one leg release if I need to. We were talking about a minute before, which I was like, holy, really? So how did you get to a point where you were able to do that? Did you go through like gymnastics when you were a kid? Like, like, let's talk about what kind of you getting on skis. You said you grew up in Switzerland. Start there. Like, when did you start skiing? Like, your parents big skiers?
I'm born in April, and I started skiing the winter before my 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
So basically learn how to walk, and then you're in ski boots.
Exactly. I was basically born on skis. And then the air awareness, I guess, just came from doing so much like bullshit eventually. Because I did do gymnastics when I was little. But when I was very little, I think maybe.
But I think that helps though. Like,
for sure.
If I did gymnastics when I was like 3, 4, 5 years old, you learn, like, I honestly think muscle memory lasts forever. Like, you learn how those things go. Even though you're little, you still deep down somewhere
for sure
will physically understand it.
For sure, it helped a lot. But I wasn't doing like dub 10s back then. And like, I mean, I kind of like taught a lot of the stuff myself on like trampoline, and even I remember like jumping off stuff in school onto the grass. Like, I remember this one place where we would jump and do like backflips and stuff into the grass, where you'd have to pay me big bucks nowadays to do that. Like, I would not jump down there right now. And like, we would just like goof around and do like sort of like parkour, but not really.
Just kids screwing around.
Just like screwing around, doing stuff. And then gymnastics, and just in the gym, like in the like school sports and stuff. When there was trampoline, I was always like the happiest. Like, it was always my favorite thing to do. And like, would love to do flips and stuff. And I guess, yeah, it really just like, I probably started when I was 4 or 5 years old, and then just kept on doing it every chance I got.
So it's just a natural progression. Like, you've been doing it my whole life, so this is natural for me, right? Like,
but I do think it's a bit, you cannot really teach those things so much. It's kind of something that it has to come from you. You cannot, the shit we were doing, like, you cannot push your kid to do that.
Right.
Like, it kind of needs to come from his heart, and he has to like say, okay, I'm willing to like do a backflip of this thing. I really want to do it.
And then have the parents later be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I never really told my parents what I was doing there, but yeah.
It paid off now. Like, what you didn't know won't hurt you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's just kind of a natural kind of thing. So you grew up, where in Switzerland did you grow up?
I grew up in center Switzerland, close to Lucerne, close to Engelberg. Probably that's the place most people know.
We skied there.
And
is that your home? Is that you consider Engelberg your home hill?
Yeah, it's where I kind of grew up my whole life. But I'm originally from the French part of Switzerland, so I would go ski there as well.
Engelberg, to me, just from my experience, is like the Swedish part. From hanging out in the ski lodge Engelberg with but
there's locals too. They just sleep
Swiss,
at home and not in the Swiss lodge.
All the Swedes. But that's just my funny experience, because I always stay there and it's like very, very Swedish. Yeah, I've been there a few times, and it's with like skiing with Christopher and Carl. we skied with you that one time when it was like horrible and covered in sand.
Yeah, I remember that.
But that's cool. It's a really, really, really cool hill. That's got a lot of notoriety now. We got great photographers like Oscar Enender, which is really, a lot of his photos are really have a lot of real amazing contrast between light and shade, which I noticed is a big feature just skiing around Engelberg. And then so, it's a big freeride mountain. Did they have like a big park there at all? Like, is that why you're so good at the tour right now, being able to like trick off of stuff? Because that's just how you learn how to do it at the hill?
I never rode park
my
entire life.
Really?
I just like, first of all, I was always scared of the park because it was always too like hard. I never had the chance to go to like a south facing slushy park, and if we would go to a resort with my parents that had a park, we would maybe do one lap in the park, and then my dad was like, okay, let's go ski some real stuff.
Right.
And then like, so it is true, I learned all my tricks and everything just next to the groomers of piste and free riding, and that's for sure a reason why I can pull those things off in the competitions.
So let me ask you this. So you know how the FWT has like wild cards? So they have like Finn, for instance, is on a slopestyle team, and they come onto the Freeride World Tour as a wild card. If you got invited to something like, 9 nights or like an event like that, would you cross over and go do the reverse? So you can go to this nice slushy, perfectly manicured park in the spring and go do something like that?
I mean, I probably don't have like the freestyle bag. I mean, I do have quite a few tricks, but like...
Didn't you just say dub 10? Like you've got a dub 10?
Yeah,
like...
but I struggle doing it in the park. Like I still prefer like a nice pow landing or something. But for sure, I've gotten more into park. Actually, just last May, we had this really insane RedBull snow camp in Mammoth, and I was invited, and we just had like this huge park just for ourselves, and like it was insane, just riding with all the freestyle guys and everything. And to be honest, not to take anything away from freestylers, like I find it so sick everything they do, and I'm like, I always wanted to be a freestyler. I always wanted to ride park and stuff, and just never really got the opportunity. But it's kind of the day that I hit those jumps in Corvatsch in Silvaplana for the first time that I realized, now I get how those guys can do like triple corks and like stuff like this, because those jumps are just so perfect and they're so well done, and like the airtime is always the same, and the speed and everything takeoff is so smooth, and like you kind of feel like you're jumping on a trampoline, and that's when I realized, all right, this is how they do it, because
it's consistent.
Out,
it's the consistency.
Yeah, when you're out in the backcountry, or like especially on the tour, it's something completely different to do those tricks in there.
So maybe that's kind of maybe you should look into doing that. I think that would be cool. I'd like to watch it, because you would probably progress and be like, oh, I couldn't do that before. I bet you could do with a consistent jump and a good week like you had in Mammoth. I bet you were doing stuff that you'd never done before.
I did learn a few tricks, but like I'm still scared of the park. Kind of.
Fair enough.
Like I don't really have this. One thing I struggle with is speed in the park. I just like, I either go too big or too short, or like I'm really struggling to get the right speed. I'm also someone that actually, if you'll watch my Freeride World Tour runs and you have a look at like the jumps that I jumped that other people have jumped, I usually always go further than the others. And that's not because I'm going faster or anything. I'm just like, I'm always popping my jumps. I'm never just like letting myself fall off a cliff, or like I'm always just like doing this little pop off the top. And so I do that in the park, and then I just go miles too far, or like then I want to go less fast and I just go short, and yeah.
So did you you got on the tour just through the juniors, or through just the regular 4-stars, just working up through? So like when did you start getting into like freeride?
I did 1 year in the junior,
where
I won the junior world, and then I moved up to the qualifier, where by winning the junior worlds, you can go straight to do the 4-stars.
Yeah.
And I missed out on the qualification my first year because it was COVID.
Oh no.
And I remember exactly, there was this competition in Austria that had great conditions, and I was like, oh, let me just like kind of try something and like send it and try to get a win, or like a podium. And because I'd gotten 4th just the 4-star before, and at this moment I was 2nd in the overall ranking, and I crashed in this comp, and everyone else crashed. Like the guy that won did like the easiest line in the world, and
he goes last in just straight lines.
And then like I got bumped down to 4th in the overall ranking, and then the rest of the comps were cancelled because we were supposed to have like 2 or 3 more 4-stars.
Right.
And the rest of the season was just cancelled due to COVID, which then eventually was kind of nice. I wasn't quite ready for the tour yet. I mean, it's a bit of a jump, and like I had only one junior year and one half a qualifier year under my belt. So I was happy to go back to the qualifier, and then was this year after, or like kind of 2021, the kind of COVID year, where we had 3 out of 3 comps counting, and then that's the year where I qualified just by showing consistency, getting second in Nanda,
Right.
and then getting a 4th and a 7th, I think, and that was enough to.
Do you
to win.
remember all of your runs? Like if someone said, "Hey, how did you do at Nanda in 2022?" Would you be like, "I remember that
I
run."
do.
Yeah,
I remember all of them.
yeah.
I remember.
Like I'd hit this cliff and like the detail. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I might. Maybe the ones I don't remember are like the crashes.
yeah. You forget. You choose
But
to forget them.
I'm pretty sure I could tell you every single run that I did.
Well, that's cool. And then so you get yourself onto the tour, and then when does the RedBull hat come into play?
So that was a couple months after winning the tour.
Because you won that first year. Your first year you were on it,
Yeah. So I get on the tour.
and that's the year. That's the year you won here, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get on tour. I get 5th at my first event in Bequeira, and then I just went on an insane winning streak.
Went on a tear. Yeah.
Winning in Andorra, winning here, then crashing in Fieberbrunn, and then winning Verbier and winning the tour, which was probably the most insane year of my life. And still till today, I cannot believe what I managed to do. And now with every comp rolling up and happening, and then like seeing the level of the other guys and like trying to get to the top of that podium again, because I
Trying to
didn't win.
stay at that level, right? You don't want people to say, "Oh, he's dropped off."
Yeah,
You know.
I got 2 podiums last year, but I didn't get any win, and that, yeah, it's
Light a fire under you. I can see you're getting a little bothered about that.
Kind of bothered about it.
I like it. So you got the Red Bull helmet. Now, the question I want to ask you is, a lot of people may not know, but you are like a world-class dual athlete, and you compete on 2 consecutive world tours, the Freeride World Tour and the Kite Surfing World Tour, correct?
Yeah.
Like, is that the official name? Or what's the official name for that tour?
GKA Kiteboarding World Tour, yeah.
Yeah, so you're a professional kiteboarder, and did they give you the Red Bull thing knowing that you did both?
So that's actually an interesting thing. Very interesting story. It was very hard for me to get into Red Bull, to get them to accept me in their team, kind of due to this dual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I don't know the entire like backstory, but Red Bull usually takes 1 athlete per sport per
zone,
country,
right? Per zone, per sport,
yeah, or per country usually.
Right.
And since there is Jeremy Heinz in Switzerland for the freeride skiing,
Mm-hmm.
it was very hard for me to get in, or for those guys to push me into the team as a freerider, because there was already another freerider, and usually when there's a freerider, as long as he's got his career and he's performing, or like, not even, Red Bull is a great sponsor.
They're loyal. They're very loyal.
They're very loyal, and if you're all of a sudden like dropping off, or you're not doing so well, their main mission is to get you back to the top. Right. And they're not gonna just like kick you for some other kid that's better or something like this.
Right.
And so actually it was interesting, because since Jeremy was there, they didn't really want another freerider. So I had a meeting with them, and they asked me more about the kiting, and they showed more interesting due to the kiting, because there's no other Swiss kiter, and even in Europe there's not many like kiters that they could sponsor. So they were really looking into me for the kiting, but I told them straight up, like, I'm not gonna wear a Red Bull hat in summer and then not ski with a Red Bull helmet in winter. Like, it's just, it would be weird for my career and like for everything. And as it being such a big thing, it just can't happen.
It doesn't really make sense, right?
And they understood that. They were also on my side. They said, yeah, we completely understand and everything. And then, so it took a very long time. It took about, I did have a contact with them when I was quite little, when I was like 15, just dropped out, just finished school and started like full on kiting.
So they've had their eye on you for a while.
And they had their eye on
mostly
me.
through the kiting angle.
Mostly through the kiting, and it just didn't happen and whatsoever. And then I had another phone call, and then from that first phone call to the guy actually calling me and saying, "Yeah, we want you on the team," was about a year.
So you didn't get surprised like with the helmet? Like you got surprised with the helmet?
Unfortunately not.
No.
I didn't get that. I was a little disappointed about that, but it was just how it ended up.
Right.
I was also, it would have been so hard to catch a moment where I would be home and they're able to be surprised with something.
So so with kiteboarding, where do you do that in Switzerland?
So we have a lot of lakes
Yeah.
and we have a lot of thermal winds.
Okay.
So
It's coming down off the mountains and through the valleys kind of thing?
more up the valley
Yeah. So yeah, okay.
during the day.
Right.
And so it used to be really good when I was little. Lake Uri, where I live, there's like 10 to 15 knots in the afternoons in summer, which is great for a little 12-year-old 40 kilos.
It doesn't weigh much, right?
Exactly. And then Lake Silvaplana is great for kiting, and it's a beautiful scenery and everything. Really strong thermal winds up there. I used to spend my parents would literally drop me up there with a tent and a credit card, and I would just spend 2 weeks in the camping by myself with some other friends around and
For real?
just kite.
That was like
all
your
day.
that was like your summer camp.
Basically, yeah.
That's super cool. And then so how do you end up getting onto like a world tour for that? How does that work? Is it similar to the FWT where you have to go through like qualifier competitions?
It used to be much harder. Now the sport's kind of almost gotten smaller, or at least the competitive side of the sport has gotten smaller. And so now you basically just sign up and go to the world tour. So for sure, winning the tour is still there's really good guys around, but it's not such a big deal to make it on tour, on the Freeride World Tour, for example. And for me, it was just a childhood dream. When I saw that sport for the first time, I was like, I want to be the best at this. This is what I want to do.
Right.
And then I kind of said, yeah, I'm gonna quit skiing. I'm gonna quit everything just to kite all year long and become the best. And after doing just kiting and skiing a little bit in winter, but just for myself, for 3 years, I think, I just kind of was missing something, and the winters were kind of I didn't want to go kiting because I was just over it, and going skiing just for my own pleasure was not that satisfying. It was just missing a bit of spice
little
to it.
Spice, right.
And that's when I saw that the Freeride World Tour was more than just the Extreme Verbier.
Right.
Because when I was little, I knew the Extreme Verbier.
Because you're Swiss, right? That's like a big deal. Was it the biggest deal ever to win the Verbier Extreme as a Swiss person?
No.
No.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that in Switzerland, winning the Verbier Extreme or just participating in the Verbier Extreme was, you're a crazy person. Something's just not right with you. And so I never had the dream of the Verbier Extreme.
Or the tour.
The tour, I never had the dream of the tour neither, but I kind of discovered it later because for me, it was kind of, I knew the Verbier Extreme, but I knew that this was not the kind of skiing I like to do, or I would watch those guys and I would be like, oh, this is not appealing to me.
Yeah.
And then I kind of somehow stumbled over the Freeride World Tour and saw that there was junior comps, there's qualifier comps, and those comps are on mellow faces, or it's just skiing. It's skiing off piste, doing exactly what I do, going hitting side hits.
It's not ultra gnar every time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And actually, the face here in Canada was kind of the first one that popped to my head and was like, oh, this looks actually pretty cool and really sick to ski. And so I thought, I think I could give it a go.
Yeah.
At free riding, and I said that the day we did actually go ski, not in Verbier, we went to Nanda to ski with my family, and then just kind of went over to Verbier on the day of the Verbier Extreme. Not purposely, just went to ski with some friends.
Just happened to be there.
And I was watching a little bit, and I thought, oh, this is crazy, but I mean, kind of, yeah, maybe I could be there one day. And that's how it started. And then I went to my first junior comp, which was a 2-star. And funny enough, a lot of people there knew me through the kiting.
Really?
Like, they knew my name.
Because you're a Swiss athlete because you'll be in
basically
Swiss news and Swiss
and because
circles with like adventure sports and stuff.
And because a lot of free riders kite.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people knew me like through the kiting, and they were just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, like what's he gonna do here and stuff. And then I ended up winning my first comp.
That's so funny.
Thinking like, just because I had I think a little different approach. I was doing 360s on bumps in my first comp, and it wasn't such a big deal for me. Whereas every time I would do a 360, like everyone would be like, "Oh my god!"
Just because it's different,
That's
right?
crazy.
It's so funny that perceptions like I think I've told you this before. Like you're one of those super freak athlete human beings that just are naturally good. Like obviously you work at it, but you have the physical whatever it is in your DNA. You just have this athletic gene, you know. Like you won the surfing thing against. we went to the surf, like the wave, the wave, Alaya Bay wave in just outside of Verbier there, and you won that against all the other riders and surfers too. I'm like, dude, this guy is just like a freak athlete. That's just how he is. So do you consider yourself still? So actually, what do you consider yourself more? If someone says you got to pick one, are you a kiter or are you a skier?
I don't know. Not
because you can be both, but I'm putting you on the spot.
I can be or I can't.
You can be both, but I'm asking you if you had to choose. Are you do you lean? Is it depending on like time of year, or is it like
I'm a warm weather person?
Yeah. Is it results too? Like I don't know your full history of results.
I'm a warm weather person. I'm a results person. Like if I wasn't cutting the top 10 on the kiting tour, or if I wasn't on the Freeride World Tour after like 3 years of like qualifiers or whatever, I probably wouldn't be doing it anymore.
Right.
Or if I,
right.
Because also the thing with freeriding, I think I just, like I said, I won my first comp, and then except if I would crash, I would always get a good result. Like I would always do top 5 or podium, or like I feel like there's something in my skiing that's not only the jumps and the tricks and whatever. There's like, because there's more in a freeride run than just the jumps and the tricks and all this. It's about everything. You
just have this natural eye, this natural like.
I think
like you just have this natural ability to see terrain. And just however it is that you've developed your skiing style over the years, just fits perfectly within that style of competition.
So that's why I started liking to compete in the first place, because I started winning. I'm not the kind of person that competes because he likes to compete or whatever. I compete because I like to win. And then kiting, I have to say, like winning a kiting title would be for me like the optimal, like the
because that's
biggest dream.
That's still one of the things that's left.
It's still the thing that's left. I've gotten really close. I've basically technically won the title in 2020, but there was no title because of COVID and blah blah blah. But yeah, it's kind of like the ultimate end goal. But I kind of know that in order to win that, I need to ski.
Right. Because you need that balance to keep
need the balance,
the refresh,
to keep my motivation and do. I just can't go train for 2 months and then go to a comp. It just doesn't work for me. And I just start overthinking things. I start to doubt myself. I start to like think, oh my God, I landed this trick so many times in training. Maybe now I'm going to crash it, you know? I'm not able to like get a good feeling by doing something a lot.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what
interesting.
differentiates
And I was going to
me.
ask you about that too, because like you, like when I said consecutively, it's not like summer and winter. It overlaps too. Like, so you do a comp here. I don't know if they still, the first year I think you were here, you won the comp here, and then you went to Colombia like the week after, and then like a week and a half after that, you went to Fieberbrunn. So you like competed in the Freeride World Tour. Then you went down to Colombia to compete on the kiting tour, and then you went back to Fieberbrunn for another FWT event. So you were like it's not like, oh, you do one and then you do the other. Like they're like overlapping.
Yeah, I did that the last 2 years. This year, thankfully, they don't overlap. Got lucky there. But yeah, the last 2 years I've been doing that. And actually, I did crash here after skiing for a long time, having the 2 comps in the Pyrenees and everything, just skiing. Came here, crashed. Went to Colombia, got second. Almost won, but we'll not get into details. And then came back to Fieberbrunn and got second there as well. Obviously, people will think, oh, well, maybe if you were doing just that, you would have won, or you would have won Fieberbrunn if you were.
Or maybe if you didn't have the opportunity to clear your mind.
It's not that's not how I see it. I see it more like, if I had not gone to Colombia, I would have crashed in Fieberbrunn, or like I would have like not. If I would have went to Colombia a month before, I would have exited in the semifinal. Or like it's really hard to explain, and people.
It seems like you rather just you're one of those people that like to be in the moment and react in the moment and just have it come at you, and then you can just decide, like you were talking about earlier when you're rolling up to that cliff, like, should I do a 3 here, should I do a backflip here? So but you like to like kind of figure things out quickly and then have them come at you so you can make these decisions because it seems to me that you seem to trust your decision making when it's on the spot.
Yeah.
Whether it's jumping a cliff or whether it's, going to an event maybe a little bit more in depth, but it seems to me that if you're stuck kind of dwelling on something and focusing on something for too long, that maybe you just get overwhelmed by it and then you lose that performance. Whereas if you're constantly changing and being engaged and being refreshed, then that's how you do like your best work.
I'm a big overthinker. Mm-hmm. Like I will overthink stuff so much. And like, I had a competition in Brazil, a kiting competition in last November. Mm-hmm. And I spent 2 months in Brazil. And so the comp was like on the second last week I was there or something like this. So I'd spent a lot of time there and the conditions weren't great. I didn't really train my comp tricks so much because I wanted to do kind of different stuff and I just kind of wanted to have fun, or like, I don't really know why, but for some reason I arrived on comp day, and although I had been kiting for 2 months, I just like felt like this was not gonna work. Like I felt like overwhelmed with information. I had done so many tricks over those 2 months that then arriving on the comp, I didn't know which tricks I should pick. Right. What should I do? Right. That's like, it's just, I mean, it's not quite the same as skiing, choice, but right? Yeah, exactly. It's like if you have a perfect flat spin and a perfect backflip and you just can't decide which one to do over a jump. Initially, I think on the Freeride World Tour, they would both score probably the same. Yeah. But you're just like constantly, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know. I'm scared to do this and crash, but if I would have done this, then I wouldn't have. And you're just like overthinking, and there's so much to process and so much to think about. Whereas if you're doing a freeride comp here in Canada and then you're flying home and flying to Colombia and you have 4 days to get ready for the comp and then the comp is on and you cannot think about all those things. You just get there on your first training session, you kind of do the 4 tricks that come naturally to you. Yeah. And then those are the tricks you're going to do. And it's not, you're not going to learn a new trick or anything before the comp. You're just there, like do the 4 tricks that feel good to you and that kind of spring to your mind first, and then use them the whole comp and get second.
That's really funny. I love to hear like everybody's kind of different ways of how they view competition, because some people love to just study and think and plan and like detail it out, but other people like yourself, you just need to be active. You need to be distracted a little bit because you just let your body do the work, because this is, I know how to do this, just shut up brain, and then let's go for it. Yeah, which is really cool. Now let me ask you this. So the last couple of years you've been doing some film projects like you mentioned earlier. You had like a travel log, like a web series, which was called I'm filming YouTube videos. Yeah. Is it a web series or just YouTube videos?
No, well, call it Max World.
Yeah.
Most of the time, but it's not really an official name. Just my YouTube, basically.
Yep. And that's just like you and your travels and cruising from place to place, jet setting around the world. And do you do a lot of it off season, or is it mostly just based on like your travels to events?
It's mostly based on my I think the most popular videos are for sure the behind the scenes of events. We try to cover as much behind the scenes as we can. But then I like to do everything, like every now and then film while going skiing or kiting, or my girlfriend Nina is the one editing and filming and everything. So she's a big kiter, a bit less of a skier for now. So it's easier to film kiting, but yeah, we're doing our best to do both.
Yeah, it seems like you guys are doing a pretty good job, or maybe she's doing a really good job of it.
She's doing a much better job than me.
Yeah. Does she like boss you around and be like, hey, I need you to do this or I need you to do that? Like, is she kind of the director as well, or is she very just good at like observing and capturing?
She is a little bit, which sometimes is pissing me off. Like, I would rather to just be observed and captured, but that doesn't always work.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So yeah, she's...
And do you guys have like? Let me ask you this: do you have like a good separation between like, you know, this is our relationship as we're partners, but then when you are like working, are you able to like separate the two, or is it all kind of blend together? So she's like telling you what to do. Like, I want you to stand over here and I need you to do this because I need this shot. And then afterwards, it's like, hey, man, there's some dishes on the counter. I need you to go put those away for me.
I would definitely say we're both way mature enough, or like we both understand and realize that when we're like getting in a fight or whatever about YouTube or about like filming or whatever, it's pure like professional. Yeah. And I mean, people say, yeah, aren't you worried about working together and stuff? And I'm like, I really don't see how we could like start fighting over something that's like our work basically, and with that have a bad relationship with each other. Like,
yeah. and have it like carry over, because maybe, I don't know, maybe
I mean, for sure there's situations where this happened and like stuff, but for us it's just like, I mean, we do get into fights about the work, but I really don't see it like affecting our relationship.
Do you think maybe having the ability or having that venue or that space to be able to get in arguments or like disagreements, it's a way of like getting it out, so that when you like flip over to your relationship, that energy has been taken care of in that place where it's like a safe place to do it, where you understand it. Whereas then you get into your relationship, well, I don't have a problem with you right now because we got it out over there. It's almost like it's compartmentalized into a different place.
I think so. Yeah,
that's great.
Sure. For sure. No.
Be like, hey, I think we need to argue. Let's go work. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, we will. We'll like, if we do have an argument, we'll say like, okay, business meeting. And then it's like pure business. So
right.
We're just like.
So you're able to do that. Be like,
yeah, no, we are. We're like, I think, professional enough to really like separate the two.
Right. Yeah. Because I always I thought I saw her today, but it was someone else, because she's usually right here, like doing that work for you. That she like you said, she chooses the the kite one's better?
We did think about if she should come here or not. Eventually, I just said it's a little bit hard to get around the resort here, especially if she has to go by herself, like to the bottom of Ozone. It's a bit of a mogul field. And
Is she a snowboarder? She's a skier?
She's skiing, but she learned to ski with me, so she's only been skiing for 4 years.
Oh, nice.
And but I think next year she'll be ready to come and to go down to the finish by herself.
There you go. Awesome. And then so that covers the kind of the YouTube show. So is it just under Max Chabloz?
It's on Maxime Chabloz.
Yeah, so go check that out. I've watched a lot of them, and I think they're well done. I think they're fun. I've watched a bunch of the kite ones because those are the ones that I know nothing about that world. So it's cool to like see me like I know that guy, and this is like his other world, his like alternate life.
Alternate life.
So talk about the film. You mentioned it earlier. I haven't seen it yet, and I apologize. I'm gonna watch it, and then when I do the intro, I'm gonna talk about it.
Perfect.
So explain what it is and what its name and what's going on there.
So together with Olivier Sautet, is a French videographer, we made Petit Suisse, which basically translates to Little Swiss. And it's a movie about myself and how I mean, at the end it's basically just a movie about me. It's a very kind of different movie. It's all about kind of whoever's watching it to paint himself a picture of me, because there's no face to camera interview where my mom is saying that I'm the greatest kid and that I learned to ski when I was so little and I got so good so fast.
The classic, yeah, those classic really, like athlete videos where you get the family to give the, yeah,
it's really just me doing my thing. And funny enough, whereas Nina likes to kind of sometimes say, okay, do this for the camera, or I try to tell her to do it as least as possible because I find that it gives a bit of a fake vibe. But for that movie, Olivier filmed me on my first year on tour. Funny enough, he didn't put any pressure on me, although I rocked up first comp on the Freeride World Tour and I had a guy following me with a red and no one knew who I was. I had done the qualifier for 2 years and like kind of who's this guy?
Yeah.
And you would think it should have put a huge pressure on me, but it didn't at all.
No.
It just like...
Did you get any attitude or any like pushback or
not at all?
Any bad vibes from anybody?
Not at all. I just like...
But yeah,
well,
like,
this guy's here and he's following me. And,
it's the first time on tour, no one knows who you are.
Yeah, but I didn't feel pressure because his goal was to do a movie about me skiing and kiting. And I knew it was going to be sick no matter what. It doesn't matter if I'm winning the tour or if I'm getting 10th or whatever. It's going to be sick to see, okay, this guy's doing the tour on both sports and everything.
You're just stoked to tell your story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was really filming purely like from the background.
Yeah.
He never asked me to unbuckle my boots and buckle them up again, or he never asked me to like turn around to face the light. He just basically he got the shots that he got and he made them work, right?
Yeah,
just by following me and filming me.
Yeah.
The 24/7 basically. And that was for me really cool. First of all, because it didn't add pressure, or it didn't like make me think, oh, I don't want to get the shot now. Like I want to relax or whatever.
Right.
And then
just leave me alone and show me what you got. Yeah.
He came to not all the stops. He came to the 2 stops in the Pyrenees and Verbier, and then we got all the shots from Freeride World Tour as well, which was really cool to make the movie and everything. And then he came to, I believe, two kiting comps, one where I completely fucked up. So that was great to have like my just frustration for the movie and everything. and one where I got second, barely missed out on the win. And so there's so many emotions, and like really good ones, really bad ones, and everything in the movie, and it turned out so great. I mean, with the season I had on the Freeride World Tour, and my kiting season ended up being a rather good one as well, with big upset as well. So it just has it all.
It's kind of cool yearbook for you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It has a little time capsule of like a moment in your life.
The whole Maxime Chabloz in the movie. And now really sometimes when people ask me about what I do or like how do I do it or stuff, I'm like telling them, just go watch the movie. Like you'll paint yourself a nice picture.
Excellent. And then did you have like much input with the editing and whatnot, or did you just show up one day and be like, here you go, this is what it is?
No, he did send me a first version, which was even more raw, and like the movie has very little music. It's very like,
so you knew what it was like. You must have a lot of trust in this guy to like, because let me ask you this: it's like it's interesting because you're like, and I asked you before, I'm like, you a little nervous? And you said yes. And I'm like, why? We've talked before. We've done this before. And you're like, I was just on like national TV the other day, and I was like nervous about that. And you know, when the camera's on you, you feel uncomfortable. But if you don't have to be doing anything and it's in the background, obviously you just explained like that's comfortable for you. But I wonder. It's interesting to me because when you're on the camera and you know it's on you, you have the ability to control how you are being put out. Yet when somebody is filming you and you don't really know and you're just yourself, you seem to have more comfort in that. And that's really fascinating to me because you have this trust or maybe this confidence in yourself of just being you. But when you're forced to be you, it seems to be like you have like struggles with that. Did you know what I'm trying to say?
I mean, first of all, national TV was live, so that's adds a little pressure.
Yeah,
and it's right what you're saying. Like you really need to trust the person.
Yeah,
and I trust you right now, so that takes a lot of pressure off me.
Great.
I know if for some reason I say something completely stupid, you're not gonna be putting.
I'm not gonna make you look bad.
You're not gonna make me look bad, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's people that you don't trust like that,
right.
And I think Olivier was like the perfect guy to do this movie because. So the story of us meeting basically is, I was 12 years old and we met at like the first ever kite trip I did. For the kiting brand for who I still ride today.
Who are they?
F1.
Yeah.
And 10 years with them now. And he was the filmer on that first trip. And he was always very critical about stuff. Like if you weren't doing a nice trick or whatever, you would not make the video.
Right.
Like you had to like perform in order to make the video.
He has his own standards of what he is going to edit and put out.
Exactly. And so for me, I was like this little young kid, but like I really wanted to make the video, you know? I was like, my ultimate goal was to be in that video. And of course, all of us were going to be in this video, no matter, it was like a next generation camp, like for kids and whatever. But still, like I really felt like I had to impress him to be in that video. And he was always kind of really only giving you a compliment if you would do something really sick.
Yeah.
And so I would always kind of look for a compliment from him. Like if I would get a compliment from him, for me it was like the best thing ever.
Gets you through the whole day.
Yeah. And I told him that I would ski. I was a skier, and he was like, he thought, oh yeah, he probably just skis like. Yeah, of course he's Swiss. He skis.
Right.
And then a few years later, I'm telling him that I qualified for a Freeride World Tour, and he's like, "Wait, what?" Because he grew up close to the Pyrenees and was skiing a lot and everything, and he knows a lot about skiing, and he's a big skier. So he's like, "No way." Okay, so we need to make a movie about this because you're not going to qualify. You're not going to re-qualify for the next year.
So, before you get kicked off the tour, I want to make sure I can do this film because you're doing both.
So before you get kicked off the tour, we should make a movie about it. And maybe I'm painting a bit of a wrong picture of him because he's actually a really nice guy and he's not like judgy or anything.
No, he sees an opportunity and he's
he's just very realistic, and like for him, like the Freeride World Tour guys were like the freaking legends, and he just never saw me there. And then when he knew that
this little kid that kept trying to get my attention in kite school, right, is one of them now.
Exactly. Yeah. Like holy shit. And he would tell you now, he was like, yeah, I want to film the first year because he's not gonna make the cut for the second one. and then I ended up winning, and he's like, now he's probably like my biggest fan, and like he's loving it, and he loved being a part of this whole first season. Like he was,
and it's cool that he knew you from such a young kid, so he's seen you like mature and develop as a person. And when you have that experience with someone, you can see them with a different perspective, or they know more about you, so they know what to capture. And they like, so when you know someone, like we know each other for a couple of years now, right? But I don't know you super deeply, or like myself, but say for instance, like I know enough about you, we've had enough conversations, and I'll be like, oh yeah, Max is like this, that, or whatever. But for someone like him who has this experience with you, he knows that he's going to be able to capture something of you that not a lot of people get to see, right? Not like, as I mentioned, like you, when you're on camera is different than when you're not, because it's like you can allow him to capture you being you, but for you to put yourself out there, it's very different. Yeah. So he's going to be able to see stuff in you that maybe he has the ability that I won't see. Yeah. And then he can capture that and then be able to share that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, that's like I think when you were talking about how proud you are of it, and I think that you need someone like that in order to get the best out of you for a project like that.
Yeah. And you kind of need to have someone that you're very comfortable with, because I mean, we were sharing room like on all the comps that he came and everything, and if you're not 100% comfortable with the person, then it's always kind of like, it's kind of difficult, right? But like with him, it was just always like my buddy coming along and filming, and
So then did you have any parts in, like, when he would send you like clips or sections, are there any parts where you're like, oh no, I don't like it? Because if you're just letting him capture this, and he's gonna display you how he sees you, which is kind of what you explained that he did, were there moments when you're like, oh shit, no, I don't know if I like that?
So that only came when I first showed the movies in public.
Like watching it alone, you're fine, but then all of a sudden realizing people are watching, you're freaking out.
Watching it alone was always fine, and I watched it with some good friends, and it was no problem at all. And then we did the first screening in Brazil, actually, during the competition, and there were like 140 or 150 people there, like just in a hotel, like on a not a laptop screen, but like a little projector. And I was like, watching the movie, I was like, oh damn, actually, I don't know if I want everyone to see this. And like, especially, I was like really frustrated, and then like kind of talking shit about the judges, and the judges were sitting right there. And I was like, it's not personal.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And so that was rather funny, but I think everyone took it fun. And
do you know why? No, because it's honest.
Yeah.
Because there's honesty in that, right? Like, say you're talking about shit to the judges or whatever. Well, they actually are able to see you talk about that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they probably went up and said, "Hey, great movie." That part, I bet you they teased you about it a little bit.
A big comment about it, but
you know what I mean? Like things like that. If it's honest and it's like, I'm putting this out there, I'm not afraid to do it. Maybe a little afraid, but but if it's an honest point of view,
yeah. But it was nothing like, it was nothing personal.
Yeah,
and it was nothing like and I didn't put it out there to put them in a bad spot. It was just like me trying to digest my loss and saying some things that maybe I didn't even mean, or maybe I did, but like it's not. And
sharing your experience, which makes for exactly. Captivating and interesting.
Not me publicly looking into the camera and saying that, any bad stuff about anything.
Judges are horseshit. Yeah, that's very cool. So, and they can find that on your YouTube channel right now. Where can we go watch that?
The movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's currently on Vimeo.
Mm-hmm.
It is a paid movie.
Okay.
Olivier said it will never go for free on YouTube, just because too much work put in and too much to like But
what about how many subscribers do you have on YouTube?
Not that many.
Not enough.
Maybe. I don't even know.
No. Because you could. It depends. You could always put it on there eventually and some ad
maybe eventually it'll go.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a personal project of his, and he put a lot of money and effort out of his pocket to make it happen. And some of my sponsors were nice enough to support the project and everything. So but it's not a huge money machine, and we know how it's a funny business, the movie like scene and stuff. Like, people don't understand the work that goes behind a movie like that.
We try to talk about that as much as possible on this show with people. Like, so many people come on with projects and we talk about what goes into it and how much money it costs, and sometimes they don't really get the result that they want to do. You know what I mean? So it is so much. I think the people listening to this show, like the fans of the LPP, definitely get an idea, because we have so many different creatives on here, and I try to get them to share as many aspects of those projects as possible. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and sometimes they take off, and sometimes they don't, but they find their audience. You know?
Yeah. But it's like, I mean, it did. Actually, you can watch it on Swiss TV. So if you're in Switzerland, you can watch it for free. I think still until like the 4th of March or something like this. And it's gonna get screened again on Swiss TV, and it's available on Amazon Prime in in a lot of countries. I'm not sure.
How long is it?
It's 52 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Full.
Yeah. It's
cool. I apologize I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to go.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah. Yes. I'd pay for it, but yeah, sweet. Very cool. So Petit Suisse.
It's actually a yogurt.
For real?
Yeah. There's yogurts that are called Petit Suisse.
Were you trying to get some sponsorship dollars from them to join on after? Just get a few extra bucks?
I think the name, I mean, we did think about a lot of different possibilities, and I kind of wanted to have my name in there, but then on another hand, you kind of want to find something that's a little catchy or whatever. And I mean, it would have been like Petit Suisse or Couteau Suisse, you know, like Swiss Army knife. But I don't really see myself as a Couteau Suisse, to be honest. Like,
kind of. You can do
some people say, you can do a lot of everything,
things.
But I'm like, nah.
That's fair.
I once heard someone say that someone calls them the Swiss Army knife because they can do everything. And it just kind of stuck in my head, and I was thinking, like, that is so lame. Like, I would not want someone calling me the Swiss Army knife.
That's funny. So you mentioned some sponsors helping you out there. Obviously, we talked about RedBull, MGG. So how do you? Is it Montgelé? Because it's a peak in Verbier.
They actually rebranded their name to MGG Ski.
Yeah.
Now instead of Montgelé Gear.
Right. Smart.
Because of mostly Americans coming up with funny names.
Tanner Tanner was riding for them. Is he still?
Yeah, he's still.
So Tanner Hall came on to MGG Ski, so that's probably a big reason why. Well, how do you say that? What's going on? Like a bunch of Tanner's fans, or like North American fans, like Montgelé Gear.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard something like Montgelé like this.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, MGG.
And Montgelé is like a peak in Verbier.
Montgelé is a mountain in Verbier. Yeah.
Right. It has its own. It has its own cabin.
Own cabin going up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And local brand from Verbier doing the best they can to produce just in Europe. I mean, everything is only produced in Europe. And yeah, great quality skiing
And
wear.
that's, like I said, that's how I knew it was Tanner. I'm like, it looks familiar. Why do I know that? And then I'm like, oh yeah, Max. And then you ski for another Swiss company as well.
I ski for Movement skis since the beginning of my freeride career. They actually sent me some skis after my first junior comp. But been with them since then, and I'm actually still skiing the same ski as I had on my second junior freeride comp.
Just the same model.
Same model,
not
same
the same
size,
ski. Okay.
Same ski.
Well, that's awesome.
Like, I mean, newer, but
it sounds like you have like really good relationships with your partners, that they all are long lasting, which is really, I think, a good sign.
Yeah, I've always been aiming for long-term relationships. Obviously, there's always going to be some that it doesn't work out, or you're going to find something better or whatever. But I haven't been freeride skiing for a long time.
Right.
But I've been an athlete for a long time. Like, I started looking for sponsors when I was 12 years old. And my parents always told me, if you want to become a professional kiter, because back then that was the dream, you need sponsors. You cannot rely on prize money. You cannot rely on your parents for the rest of your career.
Right.
You need to find sponsors. And I was constantly looking, and like I said before, F1 picked me up when I was 12 years old. I had a little deal, and then when I started to compete for real, they started to like finance my whole season basically, and that allowed me to then really kickstart my career. And then I got a sponsorship with Geneva, a bank in Geneva, which is also still my sponsor.
Nice.
Until today.
Swiss bank.
Yeah, Swiss bank. And they helped me out a huge amount for me, just like kind of starting off. The Banque Cantonale de Genève.
Perfect. Hey, this is the right spot to shout them out, right? They're helping you. You got to say who they are.
And then eventually just kind of like building on that, like having brands, and the bank was great for sure, but mostly then the skis came, and now I'm quite set with
we need a car sponsor now.
I do have a car as well. I have a Govago, which is providing me with a car. It's not a car brand, it's a leasing company from Switzerland,
right?
Which does all-in-one leasing. So basically you can have a contract and just do
right.
You don't have to worry about anything.
That's
which
amazing.
Is great for me.
What about watches? You got a watch yet?
I don't have a watch.
That's wild to me, because when last time I was in Geneva Airport, it was, I could stand in one place and I counted 12 different watch ads that I could see from 12 different watch companies.
The one thing missing still, but it'll come.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
Yeah.
Well, dude, man, it was really nice chatting with you, and like kind of getting a little bit more in depth of like the whole scope of what it is you do,
Thanks for having me.
Which is crazy. And so good luck tomorrow. I want to get out of here so you can rest up, and although maybe you want to just keep talking all night, because if you got to go home, you got to start overthinking about what you're going to do tomorrow.
I love talking.
Awesome, man. Hey, well, I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
And good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers. This has been a Redmark Media production.